Assalamu alaikum and good morning and ni hao. I am Professor Dr. Numan Ahmed. Currently, I am Dean Faculty of Architecture and Management Sciences at NED University of Engineering and Technology in Karachi. I studied in many universities, but I did my PhD from Loughborough University in the United Kingdom and have research interests in urban and regional planning, urban governance, and the issues related to management of the built environment. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Men Jinjie from Xi'an University of Architecture and Technology. My major is about civil engineering, and I'm professor to research something about structural engineering, and my research interest covers concrete structure, steel structure, and earthquake resistance, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll proceed with the session. The format would be, I will open the discussion by throwing some points, followed by input from the panelists. Then we'll request the House to please input, and then we will compile these points later to be presented in the session after the lunch. The session is infrastructure and connectivity. It encompasses physical connectivity, transportation infrastructure systems, as well as digital infrastructures. The challenges which I believe are population growth. This is a big challenge for a country like Pakistan. We can follow the model of China, but we need some input. Then we have funding constraints for these activities. Then there are some areas which are less developed, like former FATA Balochistan, how the connectivity can be established over there and the infrastructure. Then we have the issue of aging infrastructure. Some infrastructure is very old, constructed decades back, and needs some upgradation, health monitoring. So how we can look into that. And this is in fact the global challenge for now, even for the developed countries. Then we have extreme loadings, which is there, whether it be bridges, whether it be roads, transportation system, telecommunication system. We talk about fiber optic, all have to undergo and face the extreme loading. Pakistan is one of a country which faces a lot of natural challenges, such as earthquakes, a very high risk of earthquakes in a lot of different parts of Pakistan. Very recently, we saw the Mirpur earthquake, which resulted in damage, although it was a small earthquake, but it exposes the lack of code and various deficiencies which we see in the field. And that also accounts for the human resource part. I'm also the member of the official committee formed by Pakistan Engineering Council, which is suggesting the government of Azad Jammu and Kashmir how the measures are to be taken. We're in the process of compiling our suggestions, and we have visited the area, and it has again revealed that a lot of basic fundamental engineering practices are lacking in our infrastructure. We lost the Jhelum Canal road because of some lateral spreading, and we saw the damage to structure. SCO also reported, the Special Communication Organization responsible for telecom in that area, also gave us some input with regard to damages. So these are the challenges which we see in future, especially in context of CPEC, because we are expecting our railways to be expanded towards China, and they will be crossing the major boundary thrust in that areas. This brings to another point, which is floods. Again, we saw in 2010 a lot of challenge, especially in the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and then going all the way to Punjab and later on to Sindh. So we have to look into that context. I expect that the audience will share their valuable input, that how, especially in context of academia, we can come up with some practical research which could be channelized in that direction. GLOF is another area, glacial lake outburst in the north. Landslide, rock slides will be another challenge to these transportation systems, even to the fiber optic systems which will be laid between the two countries. And then comes another part, which is excessive heavy loading, because a lot of this fleet will be moving. Currently, it is moving on the highways in the form of trailers, and load regime is a big challenge. It is a social challenge as well. Very recently, a couple of weeks back, the Prime Minister of Pakistan had to chair a meeting and take some decisions to relax for a certain period of time. So these are the challenges which the society in Pakistan is facing. It's a social challenge, but it leads to ultimately engineering and technical challenges. So how the researchers and academia can help the government and the projects which are happening right now in Pakistan. Resilience is a buzzword which is very commonly used. So when we talk of transportation, connectivity, so the infrastructure has to be resilient. I want to, at this point, from the perspective that when we are talking of modern age, connectivity, fiber optics, so that should integrate certain form of intelligence into the system so that we are able to recover quickly. So the world has now moving towards the resilience, that after a disaster, after an issue, it should be able to jump back to its functionality. And that is the challenge I think academia has to face and has to support the industry in that way. Above all, cost will be the major factor. How effective and how economical solutions we can propose, keeping in view the above challenges. We have to come up with various tools and techniques which can be helpful. Another area which is generally, I see personally lacking, is the development of codes, implementation. Codes are basic fundamental documents to create uniformity and to have a common system across the country. So currently we don't have a bridge code, for example. I think academia can come up and play a vital role in this, in preparation of that. We have a Pakistan Electrical and Telecommunication Safety Code. So with respect to our today's topic, connectivity and fiber optics, telecommunication, we have already established one code in 2014. So we need to look into that. And there is other infrastructure that needs to be. So this is, in my opinion, a challenge. We have to look into that. All these challenges will require trained human resources. That is another challenge. The line departments, the practitioners, they need to be abreast, and I think academia probably is the place from where on-job trainings and certain mechanism of promotion probably may be coupled with such type of development. Now I will just very quickly, I have already mentioned, but still I would like to highlight very quickly some of the points which I have pointed out. With regard to highways, my opinion is in this modern age, we should be thinking on smart highways. We should be able to get feedback, how much traffic is flowing, what is the volume, where are the congestions, models are available. They simply need to be picked up. Pakistani universities do have those strengths, but these need to be channelized so that modern highway, smart highway system can be adopted. And I think the good platform to start with will be the CPEC route. If that can be implemented on that, can be focused on that, would be much easier and implementable. I talked about bridges. The most critical and the most costly component of any transportation system, and as I mentioned, no codes are there. We need to have some bridge monitoring systems. For example, WIM, way in motion. The bridge itself tells how much weight has crossed the bridge. So that can be reported to the authorities, maybe NHA, maybe the CPEC authority, whosoever is responsible. But the academia has to come up, develop such algorithms and tools which can be deployed on bridges, so that we are, for example, I just gave an example that automatically the bridge is telling. This may not be probably for the axle weight measurement, but this is from the strategic perspective, that how much tonnage is moving, how much bridge is stressed. So you are doing at the same time monitoring of the bridge and taking the weight data also. This can be employed on the railway bridges also. So please suggest on that, how can we move in that area. Railway engineering in Pakistan, we believe, is a very somehow neglected area, and our Chinese friends are very good in railway. The biggest railway now today we see in the world is in China. So we are eagerly looking forward to have that. Yesterday I talked with Dr. Justina from PolyU Hong Kong. They have a very good program and a system of railways, they have a academy which is called MTR Academy, which is not only training professionals in the area of bridge engineering design, but also in operations. And we have seen a lot of accidents which are happening on the road network because there is a lot of pressure, lot of traffic has to move on these tracks, but the control and all those things, and plus the human resource training is also again part of that. Ports, marine engineering, I think a program probably is in pipeline, but we need to also have in that direction. Aviation, also another area, again I would stress on cost effectiveness. For example, I will throw an idea, we can use recycled aggregates. It can be in the form of a lot of tires are being dumped. Somehow we are doing some research and other universities can do research how to use those rubber tires in various forms and manifestation, maybe in concrete. Similarly, using the old concrete, recycle it and reuse it, and there can be other ideas how to go about. The purpose would be to build a robust but cost-effective aviation system. Similarly, water supply and waste disposal is another key issue in infrastructure, I believe, and how to monitor. Now the technology is available. I see a lot of tools and sensors available on a very low price in China, which can be deployed to measure the flow, the pressure, and reporting. But all is purposefully should be done so that somebody is making decisions based on that data. And the planning department, like yesterday the minister talked about having a database. So I believe this should be going to those database for decision makers to decide where the water quality is going down, where the quantity is going down, and so on and so forth. Just with a few comments with regard to information and digital connectivity, I tried to cover the digital connectivity from the perspective of infrastructure. I will request the audience, not my major area, but we would love to hear how the television, internet, broadcasting can be improved and robust things can be prepared. One of my idea, which I've discussed with my colleagues back in my university, is our FATA and all these areas, if digitally connected, their youth can be very easily, can start giving them trainings, and they can start, for example, developing apps and various things while remaining there in their area and doing the economic activity. So such type of things we have to look forward. And as the conference, as the session chair, I would request that suggestions which are doable with certain parameters may please be highlighted. Now I will request my panelists to please start giving their input. So would you like to start first?
Well, thank you, Dr. Ali. You have almost covered each and every important aspect regarding the infrastructure. We know that infrastructure is the main root or foundation for all development. The one thing that, along with all these areas that we are going to discuss or we are going to cover with the audience, the most important is the professionalism in engineering practices, especially the skills on site, use of materials, and you also touched upon recycling the old materials. I would also suggest that we should also stop wastage of the natural resources and try and make use of the already demolished infra as much as possible, which comes in part of recycling the old infrastructure. However, like the CPEC is developing, we significantly need a lot of quite a new quantity of materials, which is definitely resource heavy, environmental heavy, impacting our environment, resources. We should be careful of not wasting our resources, but sanely using these resources. Second is the professional practices at site. Developing infrastructure also requires that it should be constructed in a way that it serves at least the whatever you have presumed its life, it serves for that much. If there are flaws in construction, bad practices, non-skilled execution, definitely there will be flaws in infrastructure and a lot of wastage of resources, in the form of early deterioration, durability issues, especially because most of the infra will be concrete and asphalt based. So I would suggest that we should emphasize on extremely good professional practices. For that, we should also train our young engineers through our undergraduate programs as well as our technology programs so that they are good executioners at site. Thank you. That much from my side, and definitely I'll add more once the discussion develops. Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. We'll request Dr. Lu to please.
Okay. We're glad to meet Baishawa University professor. My research field is culture and university cooperation. My topic is the programs and prospects of cooperation between Northwest University and the universities of Pakistan. I work in Northwest University in Xi'an, Shanxi province, and we have a lot of cooperation in Belt and Road. Northwest University is located in Xi'an, China. In ancient times, it was known as Chang'an, which was the starting point of ancient Silk Road. I was very honored to be invited to attend the meeting of CPEC Consortium of universities. The following are the progress and some potential of cooperations between Northwest University and the universities of Pakistan on Belt and Road. First, progress of cooperation between Northwest University and the universities of Pakistan since 2018. As one of the universities of the CPEC Consortium of universities, Northwest University has been openly and actively participating in various activities of cooperation and exchanges with universities of Pakistan. Although the cooperation in research which members universities has become increasingly close. In 2018, Northwest University and the Pakistan Research Center of the University of Peshawar in Pakistan jointly established the Pakistan Research Center of Northwest University. The aim is to conduct research on the diversification of economic and trade cooperation between China and Pakistan. The industrial involvement in multiple fields, the docking of infrastructure, construction, and the enrichment of cultural exchanges through academic exchanges between China and Pakistan, and to provide a theoretical basis and intellectual support for the comprehensive cooperation between China and Pakistan. The Institute of Silk Road Studies of Northwest University has signed a cooperation agreement with the Pakistan Research Center of Peshawar University in Pakistan to conduct academic exchanges and constructs the Pakistan Research Center of Northwest University. In 2018, Professor Wang Jianxin, a famous archaeologist at Northwest University, and Abdullah Samad, director of the Cultural Affairs Bureau of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pakistan, signed a letter of intention on cooperation of international ecology, culture, heritage conservation to protect the culture heritage conservation in Hindu Kush, Pamir, Himalaya area and research on the sustainable development of area. In 2018, the Central Asia College of Northwestern University and the China-Pakistan Investment and Trade Promotion Association signed a memorandum of cooperation on the joint training program with international students along the way of Belt and Road, to cooperate on training students and to actively employ a new model for foreign culture cooperation. The construction of the CPEC Consortium of universities provides important academic support for the CPEC construction with technologies, talents, case, and successful experience. It is of great significance to the development of China-Pakistan friendly relations and the CPEC construction. Besides, it also has set up a bridge of communication, education, and tolerance between China and Pakistan. CPEC Consortium of Universities is an important measure to implement the CPEC project and further deepen the cooperation and exchanges between China and Pakistan. Northwest University will continue to establish in deep cooperation with Pakistan University. Presently, there will be the following work. First, strengthening the implementation of cooperation agreements with universities of Pakistan to promote the connotation of cooperation. Northwest University and Pakistan universities will continue to learn from each other through international exchanges and cooperation in order to enhance mutual understanding and cooperation. With the development of economic globalization and internationalization of education, the international exchanges and cooperation between China and Pakistan will be further promoted both horizontally and vertically. At the same time, its potential will be further explored and ultimately realized the diversification and leapfrog development of higher education. Second, innovating the new mode of cooperation between China and the University of Pakistan. Northwest University hopes to cultivate the excellent talents to promote cultural exchange between China and Pakistan by co-founding Confucius Institute and using Chinese language. Third, cooperating in running schools and carrying out international curriculum operation. Northwest University will cooperate with Pakistani universities to carry out international curriculum cooperation, which is of great significance for the expansion of educational resources and the development of disciplines. First, cooperating with think tanks in universities of Pakistan. In 2019, Northwest University established the Belt and Road Initiative University Think Tank Alliance we sincerely invite Pakistan University think tank experts and institutes to participate in the exchange activities of the Belt and Road University Think Tank Alliance. Northwest University is willing to build and develop the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor University Alliance, build a community and humanity and discerning along the Belt and Road, and make new and great contribution to the common welfare of the two peoples. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Lu. And before I proceed to the two other panelists, I will just make very quick 2 points. Dr. Wasim has stressed on professionalism and ethics, and again, Dr. Lu is talking about cultural exchange. So I think this will be another area for our youth in which the faculty and academia has to stress these two things together, because I, as a professional engineer and as a teacher, I see a lot of scope for our youth to be trained. For example, what Dr. Wasim Halik has said, health and safety is one of the key things, and it is a very famous saying that safety is a culture. So this culture has to be incorporated apart from the other cultural aspects which Dr. Lu has said. And fortunately, Dr. Wasim right now sitting with us is also the head of the Curriculum Development Committee for the Pakistan on the platform of Engineering Council. So I will request him also. I'm also the member of that committee we'll be talking with Professor Lu on that, in that regard. Now I will request my next colleague to please present Dr. Nouman.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. I begin my comments by revisiting some of the obvious thoughts that are associated with the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. The term infrastructure and connectivity, when equated with this economic corridor, raises the question that economic development for whom? And obviously, one of the common answer would be that it is the corridor of prosperity for the two peoples of our great countries. And when we look at the infrastructure, especially going beyond the conventional definition of infrastructure, away from the usual hardware, then maybe we will be able to interpret this infrastructure in multiple ways. And I shall put before you, the learned audience, few dimensions in which this infrastructure can be reinterpreted and revisited. We can consider China-Pakistan Economic Corridor as the infrastructure of collaboration. While sitting yesterday in these halls, we discussed many dimensions of collaboration in respect to academia, academic work and research. And also this morning we heard very important thoughts as to how academia can come together and formulate common research agendas and different types of initiatives where the people from the academic fraternity of the two countries can come together and not only develop the research questions and the enterprises around those questions for gaining new knowledge, but also make that entire research enterprise and academic pursuits beneficial for the peoples of the two countries. The second dimension within this collaboration is obviously the collaboration of business and trade. Obviously, infrastructure happens to be the means. The actual ends of this infrastructure will come through its effective and efficient utilization of enterprises and entrepreneurial class of the two people. And this cannot happen until and unless the business communities and all those who are associated directly or indirectly with these enterprises of sorts come together, understand the prospects and predicaments of each other, and then formulate a robust strategy of business development for the prosperity of their enterprises and their peoples in the times to come. A related dimension in this reference is the collaboration at the strategic level. We heard in one of the discussions yesterday that China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is also posing grave challenges for some of those who do not want prosperity for these two countries to evolve. Obviously, all of those have to be mitigated and dealt with in a very intelligent and appropriate way, where we are able to do away with all the challenges in a smart manner and make this corridor a harbinger of prosperity for the times to come. The second possible interpretation of this infrastructure could be through social interaction and cultural linkages. Our friends have talked about that how cultural linkages are important in making people understand each other's norms and also relating to the commons and understanding the uncommons, and see that how we can work together closely on those counts. Some of the possibilities in this respect could be targeted opportunities of tourism. It is common knowledge that while China is one of our dearest friends, the understanding of each other's context is perhaps limited. And this can only be enhanced when we get to see each other and know each other well by the experience of visiting each other's countries, appreciating the different types of cultural and traditional activities that exist on those contexts, and bringing the best of them to our context and for the benefit of our peoples. The second important attribute in this reference could be the designed student and faculty mobility and exchanges. As we have seen, and probably many of us in this hall may have experienced, that student-to-student linkage, or the experience of studying somewhere, spending some time with the student fraternity somewhere, becomes a lifelong social asset. And this is one asset that the academic fraternity actually cherishes a lot and is able to build bridges beyond the conventional hardware. So if the people, especially the young people, will have the opportunity of spending some time together, learning from each other and bringing those experiences to their respective comrades in each other's countries, I believe it will be a huge asset on which this corridor will be able to progress and prosper leaps and bounds. A related attribute where we can definitely learn from China is in the science of sports. Over the period of time, if we look at the progress that the Chinese sportsmen have basically performed in different international events such as the Olympics, we see that their performance in the medal tables is outstanding. Whereas our country requires enormous amount of boost and the harnessing of talent that remains in the form of our sportsmen. And we can benefit tremendously if we build an infrastructure of sports wherein we not only learn from our Chinese counterparts, but where we can also probably identify the hidden talents and polish them to the level where they're able to perform extraordinarily in the international competitions and raise the flags of the nation higher. A related and perhaps important attribute in this respect is to learn from our Chinese counterparts the elements of traditional wisdom. Every one of us is aware about some of the extraordinary feats that have been in fact undertaken by our Chinese counterparts by relying upon traditional wisdom. We all perhaps relate to a very common term these days known as the barefoot doctors, meaning providing services to people with very little input but very, very effective outputs. So there is a lot of possibility of making use of such type of strategies for benefiting our population. The third attribute in reference to infrastructure, which has been also discussed by my colleagues earlier, is the infrastructure of mitigating disasters and other types of environmental hazards. We all know that in China and Pakistan both suffer from the vagaries of changing climate and other types of environmental implications that are becoming more and more visible with the passage of time. Precious life is lost and billions of dollars worth of assets are affected. Obviously, the sequence of responding in the wake of disasters and environmental damages are to provide immediate relief to those that are there in desperate needs, to create an infrastructure of rescue, rehabilitation, and eventually leading to the signs of redevelopment. All of these are very costly affairs, but probably by using the appropriate wisdom and opportunities, we can make them not only cost effective, but possibly the platforms where redevelopment becomes more and more useful and sustainable in the times to come. Finally, I would like to just draw your attention towards some important symbols of infrastructural development. And in my view, one of the symbols of development, at least in Pakistan, is the port town of Gwadar. Many of us basically symbolize the initiation and development of China-Pakistan economic corridor from the consequent developments and progress made in the port city of Gwadar. It is going to be the second most important port after Karachi, and we all look forward to its rapid progress and development. However, while certain milestones have been achieved, there is a lot of ground that is still required to be covered. Very recently, the Balochistan government has provided approval to the Gwadar Smart City Port Plan, and as a consequence of that, many of the development initiatives will now be streamlined and will basically follow a path of planned development. There are many undertakings that still require some attention from the concerned quarters, and they include the development of the shipyards, the enhancement of occupancy within the Gwadar town, the taking off of important business ventures so that Gwadar not only remains a logistic location, but also progresses on the count of business opportunities that it possesses, and above all, making Gwadar relevant to its own people. This requires a conscious exercise of dispelling the myth that Gwadar port development is only undertaken by initiatives coming from other locations. We have to see that how the local people of Gwadar and the people of Balochistan can play a very proactive role and benefit from the developments that happen in Gwadar in the times to come. While Gwadar can become the opening of a very important corridor leading to the other locations, we also need to see that the land-based connections between Gwadar and rest of the country have to be developed at a very fast pace so that it acquires the type of strategic significance for which it was made an integral part of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Noman. Now I will request my last panelist, Professor Jin Ji Men, to please share his views.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is my first time to Pakistan. So before talking about the topic of the group discussion, please allow me to give a short introduction about my university and my major. I think they have very, very close relation with the topic, with the group topic. I just want to say 3 points. First is about our university. Xi'an University of Architecture and Technology is located in Xi'an, just as the same place with Dr. Lu, also from Xi'an. He is located in the famous historical and cultural city. The university was founded in 1956. At present, our university has 17 schools, offering 65 undergraduate programs. We have 7 first level and 30 second level discipline accredited to confer doctor degree, and among them 9 is national level specialties, and 15 is provincial level specialties. In our university, I think civil engineering, I think that's the same as Dr. Ali. Also, civil engineering and architecture. Also, environmental engineering, I think is the strongest. About my major is civil engineering. About ranking about my major in China, I think it's about 10 to 14. Among them, in China, there are almost 400 university or college who have civil engineering. So the ranking of my major, I think, is 10 to 14. Second, about the topic was the group discussion about infrastructure and connectivity. All we know, for one belt and one road, I think infrastructure is one of the most important content for us to cooperate or to connect us together, to connect China and Pakistan together. For example, building structure, roads, railway, high-speed railway, tunnels, bridge, all these are relative to civil engineering. For one road, just as Dr. Lu has said, Xi'an is the starting point of ancient Silk Road. About 2,000 years ago, in Han Dynasty, in China, Han Dynasty, Zhang Qian and his team start from Chang'an City. Chang'an City is the old name of Xi'an. They go to Europe, to South Asia, and bring them silk, tea, and so on. And then they take back grape, tomato, walnut, and so on. I think this is communication in the ancient China. So based on the 2 points about, I think we have a long cooperative history between China and Pakistan, between Xi'an and Pakistan. So why not choose Xi'an? Why not go to Xi'an to have a look? And why not choose civil engineering in our university? So this is the second point. The last point, I want to say something about civil engineering in our university. The civil engineering in our university was founded in 1956, the same year ago our university. Now the school offers 4 undergraduate programs. First, civil engineering is the first. Then, is city underground space engineering. For example, the metro also belongs to this major. Second is communication and transportation. For example, the roads, how to design the road, and so on. And traffic engineering makes the traffic goes smoothly. So 4 majors. Between them, civil engineering is a national level specialties. And has selected by China Ministry of Education as the excellent engineer education program. The school has the first level civil engineering or PhD program. The major fields included structural engineering, just as I have done. I think also Dr. Ali has also doing some similar. Okay. Second is disaster prevention. Also, for example, earthquake resistant, something like earthquake engineering. Also, geotechnical engineering, bridge and tunnel engineering, construction and management. Now in our university, we have some international students. Part of them also from Pakistan. I have a master student also from Pakistan. His hometown is Lahore. Lahore. So his major is also structural engineering. Now, there are about nearly 200 faculties in our school. Among them, probably 40 are professors, 70 are associate professors, and 36 are PhD supervisor. The school has one innovation research team award by the China Ministry of Education and one national level teaching team. Okay. The school have two high-level research platforms. One is National Key Laboratory, the Western Green Building, and the Ministry of Education Key Lab of Structure and Seismic Engineering. The seismic and structural engineering is top 7 in China. Also the key discipline of China. So I think we have a good chance to cooperate in civil engineering in Xi'an. Also, I think CPEC play a good role in the cooperating. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Jin Ji Men. Now I will request the audience, our honorable guests over here, to please give your input. Do we have a mic?
Okay.
Yes, please. Sir, if you could introduce yourself first and then the question or your comments.
I am Dr. Zafar Khan from Institute of Space Technology. We have collaborative research and development with several Chinese universities. And one of the things which I saw was that once they were establishing Department of Aeronautics and Astronautics in the Nanjing University, and they established a new building within a very short time of 9 months. Whereas if we have to construct the same building in Pakistan, that would take years and years. So the bottom line was that there was a lot of automation in their infrastructure development. So one of the areas in which we could benefit from them would be automation in the infrastructure development. And I would like to solicit your view. To what extent could Chinese help us in infrastructure development by bringing automation and the good engineering practices, and the good engineering practice in terms of human resource and also in terms of different codes, building codes. Because all the buildings which I saw in China, they were spotless. Whereas in our building, after some time, some problem creep in, seepages there, leakages there. There are many stories which I don't want to share at this point, but these are some of the areas in which we would like to, we would look forward that there could be more development assistance from their side. So would you like to expand upon this theme that we can go ahead in this direction?
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Zafar sir, thank you so much. I have a few comments and I will request Dr. Hollis to also address. The first part is the routine procedural steps through which the construction practices happen, starting from the concept, approvals, and then tendering, then allocation, and then monitoring the construction work, and then handing over the project to the end user. So I, as a professional engineer, also see fundamentally some slow processes also happening in the planning side as well as in the selection of contractor, and the slow pace or fast pace versus advantages and disadvantages, or incentives or no incentives. I think that is one part of the big picture which creates the problem which you have exactly pointed out. In Pakistan, typically, you're absolutely right, a lot of time is wasted in developing the basic infrastructure. The second part, which you have already suggested, is the use of modern tools and equipment and techniques. I just want to highlight few projects which are actually mega projects, not small projects, in which there is an attempt to go on the accelerated path of construction. Recently, in few projects under the CPEC, for example, which I witnessed, is, for example, using the concept of ABC, accelerated bridge construction, in which the pier, the transoms are prefabricated and launched on the piers. We saw this in the Orange Line and some metro train projects, which significantly accelerates. These are the mega projects. The same culture, I believe, what you have pointed out, needs to go into the other areas and choices of various material. My university, for example, my colleagues are working on some of the aspects of building where in conventionally, if you are constructing a house using masonry, brick masonry, block masonry, it might take, for example, months to construct. We are trying to establish dry masonry in which no mortar is used, and these are prefabricated concrete high-strength blocks. And there was a joint collaboration with the military college, and blast resistance tests were also done in Nowshera range to see their effectiveness in that area. And we are thinking to start with by providing these to the military checkposts. So whenever, God forbid, if there is a blast, so the personnel are saved. So that is leading towards that. This is my input, sir. I will request you, if you could, from the construction perspective, if you can highlight.
Thank you, sir. I have already, sir, mentioned the second part of your question, that is bringing in professionalism and professional ethics. This is our attitude towards our profession, that even knowing well that what are the good practices, we don't follow those or don't execute that on ground. For example, if you take concrete is the major chunk of construction these days. Almost 90% infrastructure is made of concrete. And even our MS graduates, knowing well that what are the good concrete practices, how the concrete should be made, laid and cured, till the time you don't follow those, your infrastructure, which has an expected life of 50 years, starts deteriorating just after 10 or 15 years. And then you put in an extra effort just to keep it going for another 10 or 15 years. So that is a major problem. So the area we need to improve is basically the attitudes, the ethics, the engineer and society, the role of engineers towards society, their obligation towards sane use of resources. And that comes from the training, right from the alma mater, from where we train the undergraduates. We inculcate in them what we are doing now through our curriculum development is, and which has been adopted by most of the universities and which the universities are in the process of adopting, is the outcome-based education system, in which we are basically trying to inculcate 12 graduate attributes which basically train good professional engineers, which are going to give us a good professional execution on ground. And the area I've just mentioned is what we are going to train in universities, and we can expect that they go and perform in the field. The snacks which Dr. Ali has mentioned in our processes, we all very well know. If we want something to be built in 10 months, we can do that. We just have witnessed an example in our country that a marvelous project been done in 10 months, that is Kartarpur corridor, right? Whereas a simple 3-story building can take 3 to 4 years. That's just the attitudes. If our attitudes are corrected, our procedures and people who are laid back in our procedures, that is corrected, the construction or the infra can be developed well in time. Procedures are there, very nicely developed professional procedures, and we are not like lagging from our peers in the world. Professionally, we are competent enough to follow the latest procedures in the world, like building information modeling. We are practicing that, and we know that what the benefits we accrue by just optimizing the construction industry. But somehow there's a sense of denial in accepting these latest developments. And that we got to basically embrace the latest developments, and hopefully what we are trying through our curriculum will get to that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, would you like to make another argument, or should we proceed? Okay, there is. So, would you like, Dr. Zafar sir, would you like to add something? Just 1 minute. Before that, then we'll give it to you. Yes, please, Dr. Zafar sir, please.
There is the advent of new materials, like composite materials. This is just a new technology, sandwich structures. So, what are the possibilities of introduction of these innovative materials in our system from China?
Sir, very briefly, there are a lot of materials. Being civil engineers, typically, there are two philosophies prevailing in the researcher. One is to go for a high-tech research, which is definitely required, and one is to support the current national level support to common people, where cost of construction has to be low. So speaking from the first perspective, in which high-end technologies, which is expensive, which can be used in big structures or strategic nature, we are doing research on that as well. For example, use of specialized dampers, use of carbon fiber, which is very common now, but slightly expensive, using those for strengthening our infrastructure. That is one aspect which we are doing. But on the other hand, like I mentioned, using dry masonry for common people has to be resistant, because not everybody could experiment and test and then build. We have to give a modular sort of a design with certain limitations, so that 2 marla, 3 marla, 5 marla, 10 marla house can be built. So two approaches are being adopted in various universities, in which they are trying to go in both the direction. Some of my colleagues have not started, but they're planning to work in materials which are shape memorialized, which regain their shape after. So, but that is, at least in my university, it's a very starter area, not too much of research, but some of them are thinking, but there might be universities in Pakistan who might be working. Yes, please, Mike. Okay.
All right. My name is Su Lijun from Institute of Mountain Hazards and Environment, Chinese Academy of Sciences. And when we talking about infrastructure and connectivity, normally we refer to physical connectivity. And for physical connectivity, and before we do the construction works, what we need is we know the background conditions. So the data includes geological data and meteorological data and hydrological data. And an entire site of this kind of data. And I think the first thing we need to do is there should be such authority to collect all of these data together and analyze these data, like maybe NDMA, to have all of these data and analyze these data and find the gaps and fill the gaps. So before we knowing these fundamental situations, we can do nothing. Yeah. For example, the railway, we don't know how if we can build the railway without these fundamental data. And regarding this, and the most important thing is we need divide the CPEC into sections, and we arrange different groups of scientists and engineers to do the investigations section by section. And this is I think like the spatial things, and for temporal things, because I have joined several and also lead several joint projects regarding the mountain hazards investigation along KKH. Yeah, and we found out a lot of issues, like there are very large debris flow fans and there are potential landslides. So we need to do this kind of work to investigate the mechanism and the frequency of the, like, for example, debris flow. And we need to assess, quantitatively assess the risk of those large landslides. Like, we need to do susceptibility analysis and risk assessment. And after we knowing this, we will know where to build the infrastructures and how to avoid, like, geological hazards and these kind of things, and we can design countermeasures. So I think this is the most important thing, and detailed investigation and monitoring work. And I know that PMD have meteorological stations. I think what we should do in the future is increase the density of the meteorological stations and hydrological stations. And after this, I'd like to talk some about, it's just continue yesterday in theme 3, our discussion, because I noticed that from Dr. Zain Abedin, and he said that 90% research is done by universities, and most of the funds is from HEC. But currently, the scientific collaboration and research funds collaboration is between NSFC, that is Natural Science Foundation of China, and Pakistan Science Foundation, PSF, and also most of China and most of Pakistan, because these are the counterparts from the two countries. But now the question comes, in China, most of the research funds are from NSFC, most, and like Chinese Academy of Sciences. And in Pakistan, most of the research funds come from HEC. So that doesn't match. So in the future, I think we should establish like joint research funds between NSFC and HEC. And so one example is there is a joint program between NSFC and PSF. And in China, we have around 3 million RMB support, and in Pakistan, it's only 30 to 40,000 US dollars. So that is enough for Pakistan scientists to do their research work independently. But I knew from yesterday's discussion, in HEC, there are such kind of research projects, like 15 million rupees is around 1 million RMB. So that match. So this is my suggestion for joint research funds. And third thing is I'd like to talk something about our China-Pakistan Joint Research Center on Earth Sciences, because I noticed that Dr. Muhammad Ali mentioned that training for engineers and young scientists. Our center will organize at least 2 training courses every year from this year. We already organized one at KSM University from September to October. about data sharing. We welcome any kind of request of training. All the universities and institutes can propose your request of your demands for trainings. And you can talk to Dr. Sabras Alisha, because he's the focal person at HEC, and you can also talk to KZM University, like Professor Goris, Dean for the Department of Geology, and we can discuss further and organize the training course. So that will be more effective. So that's all for me.
Thank you very much, Professor Su. For those who may not know, Professor Su is also the Deputy Director of the China-Pakistan Research Center. Am I right in saying that? Yes, he is the Deputy Director also over here. And very quickly, I would like to comment on your suggestions. The first thing which you said about data, I totally agree. It is the very fundamental point from any activity start. Yesterday, the Minister of Planning was also sitting here. His point of view and perspective were also the same, that we need a very scientific, broad-based data, because the Ministry of Planning, the Ministry of Statistics, in collaboration, they have to then come up, the Planning Ministry has to come up with the for the annual development programs approval and going beyond that. You have very specifically mentioned about geotechnical data, geological data, hydrological data. All these are the fundamental requirements of any infrastructure project, without which planning is not possible. You have to do them. Even at the master plan level, when you are conceptualizing, you have to have at least, if not a very refined data, but at least some raw data to begin with. And I totally agree with you, because when we consider the CPEC, then we talk of all the way to Hunjarab, the border between China and Pakistan, and going all the way to Gawadar. It's about more than 2,500 kilometers or so. Especially up in the north, the area is very treacherous, and the planning is very difficult actually to come up what solutions will be feasible. To even give a rough estimate, you need to have something. So definitely we stress, and I will add to this, a year earlier there was a conference organized by Higher Education Commission in the Prime Minister House, and there were various sessions. I was also part of that session, and we gave a recommendation over there. And today you pointed out that yesterday in one another session I pointed out, and now today in my session, at least from my side, there will be a recommendation. So these are about 3-4 different incidents or days or times where a suggestion has came up that there should be a very scientific database established. Let's start for the CPEC, and that might be housed, I don't know whether in CPEC GRC or maybe in the CPEC authority. Whoever is the appropriate owner should have this, and this database will be used for planning and further development. Yesterday I added in that session that not only the database of the such data which you have mentioned, but we need to have a database of experts who are willing and who are ready to give input to CPEC, maybe based on some discussions, some meetings, and then that database is prepared so that we can collaborate whenever there is required. Because I have worked on various CPEC projects, and I have found at the end that nobody knew about our expertise. Similarly, there will be other experts to whom the Chinese don't know that they are available and they can readily help. So losing that opportunity means for Pakistan a big loss in a way, because we have to be contributing and developing our own human resources in Pakistan. And that also brings in certain part of the economic aspect to Pakistan as well. So from that perspective, the database, I totally agree, should be there, and we will make these recommendations. Secondly, you talked about projects and you talked about risk assessment or vulnerability assessment. In the governance conference in Hong Kong, where I represented Pakistan, and in the PM House last year, again, coincidentally, all the panelists and the audience over there also concluded that there should be scenario-based studies. Scenario can be, God forbid, if there is a magnitude 7 earthquake in the Himalayas, what roads are going to be blocked? What bridges are expected to have some level of damage? If there is a railway line, then what will happen? What about the fiber optic lines which are crossing the fault rupture? Yesterday, I think you were talking somewhere about the railway lines and where the glaciers are flowing. So that is a very big challenge for planning. And if they are planned and then scenario-based such studies, I think universities and PhDs and MSc researchers have to come up. And we need to have a repository at the central level from where these activities could be collaborated. And I believe CPGRC, China-Pakistan Joint Research Center, can play a pivotal role in that. Then you talked about various modes of funding. Dr. Safdar was sitting here and he has listened to your comments, and the mechanism in China and Pakistan, that has to be deliberated on a higher level, and I think the Director General, Dr. Safdar Ali Shah, will take up that and look into those, maybe removing the glitches instead of changing, so they can look into that. And then you talked about your center, so thank you very much for your feedback. We look forward for suggestion. Yes, please.
Sir, I am Group Captain Ahmed Sarfraz. I am posted at National University of Technology, Deputy Director. Sir, one thing, this is my first chance to be here at this conference. There should be, like yesterday as well as even in today's session, there are numbers of things which are coming up, very good ideas, that they should be studies, scenario-based, event-based. I suggest that maybe, I'm sure somebody would be looking at it, that we should identify few studies, and those studies should be assigned to different universities, or maybe group of universities, so that they can work on it, and maybe after a number of months we can move forward. So this is the first part of my question. So second thing, I would like to know about my honorable guest from China University of Architecture and Technology, that what they are doing about 3D printing. I mean, this is an emerging and very interesting field, as we can see that very good houses, they are being built in hours. So I am sure there must be something going on. This is my second question. And last part is from Dr. Ali. And so what I suggest, and you have already pointed out, the professional ethics is a weak area and requires tremendous amount of focus. So I would suggest that we must put this thing in our syllabi, so that we have very good engineers, professors, researchers, and at the same time, they are men of integrity, honesty, and we have, alhamdulillah, so many right now present. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can you please repeat your second question to our Chinese?
From my guest from China University of Architecture and Technology,
Yes.
that what is going on about 3D printing at their university, like how are they teaching in the undergrad or graduate programs, or in the structures? Thank you.
First of all, to your comment, yes, these conclusions will be summarized. It will be presented in a later session. HEC will be making record of those, and from there, the implementation or initiation would start. So you can always contact Dr. Safdar Saab because I'm representing my university, so they are the focal people and they are doing these activities in the same manner. So yes, but sometimes some activities take lead, sometimes don't, so we need to push as a society in various things if they are lagging, so they are always very helpful. Secondly, Professor Jinji, the question is to you, is there any three-dimensional printing of buildings in your university? 3D printing. The printer is printing physically the glass or the table or the structure.
Usage of 3D technology in construction.
Printing.
3D print technology.
Yep.
Yeah, some teachers in our university are doing some research about 3D print. Usually to print the model of building and so on.
If you can elaborate on that, yes, you are doing it. What is the scale of that? I mean, if I need to construct a room, let's say 15 feet long, 10 feet wide, and 10 feet high, can I do that?
My research interest maybe is not about that, but I know some teachers are doing about that.
Okay.
Are doing about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
One comment on his question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
The 3D printing, at Institute of Space Technology, we have developed a 3D printing machine. We have developed small parts, but they are mostly intended for the small applications, dynamic applications. And well, the concept is the same, and it could be extended to making the big buildings, but that will take some time, to the best of my knowledge. Thank you.
Sir, actually, there is a lot of research on 3D printing technology in construction. If you go on American Concrete Institute website, or they have a daily concrete smart brief. And every other day, there is some small or medium range building that is coming up with the 3D technology through concrete construction in USA, North America. It's technology of the day, it's contemporary, and in China also, there are universities which are not only researching on this. I have seen in one of the concrete smart briefs, one cafe built with 3D technology. So it is the future, sir, and it would be there. Sooner or later it will be there, it is the future, 3D technology. Coming over to the professional ethics, it is already part of our outcome-based education curriculum, which is basically embraced by the universities since fall 2018. Out of 12 graduate attributes, we have 3 graduate attributes basically which focus on professional ethics and engineers' responsibility towards society and the responsibility of engineers towards development. So ethics is one, a graduate attribute, and it is taught while taking into account these graduates through various subjects as a program learning outcome. It is taught to the student as professional ethics, and hopefully once our graduates graduate with this attribute, they are going to perform this. They will have that sense that, okay, we have some responsibility towards ethical professionalism. And same goes for engineering and society and environment and sustainability. I'd like to give one comment on, Deputy Director, what's his name, China Park Research Center? Professor Lu. Professor Su. Okay, while through your discussion, Dr. Ali, an idea came into my mind. Our industry is not that absorbing while the engineers are under training. Like they don't they don't have much capacity to absorb interns, right? What to talk of researchers. So our industry is laid back, and recently, that again, through the last 3-4 years, we have started industry-academia collaboration, but mostly it is the academia which is active in this area. Industry doesn't have that much capacity, or it does not cooperate that much. However, an area is identified because we have representative of many universities of China, and this is going to be a collaborative research linked to CPEC, right? So what could be done is that few of our selected undergrad interns through different programs can go to China for 6 to 8 weeks for internship. There are so many great products being done in China, right? So they can have that much internship in China. And then our master students, their quality is too good, but the research needs financial spending, right? Unfortunately, we lack in financial funding from university. Right, HEC tries to give some money, but in Pakistani currency, if you want to do research, you need about 4 million for a good research at MS level. And we don't have that much money for MS students. So what students prefer is that they mostly take on subject-based MS and they try to complete their degree. However, we can have collaboration in this area too, that our students are too good. Out of my 15 MS students, about 12 have impact factor journal papers because they did too good in their research, right? So intellectually they're too good, but they don't get that opportunity for research in most of the universities. So we can have a semester of research in collaboration with Chinese construction industry, or because you said that your industry is quite active in research, right? So we can have a few of our graduates go and do their research over there. We can have that collaboration as well, right? Thank you very much. Sir.
Thank you very much. Dr. Wasim Saab is also the convener. I've already mentioned, maybe you came slightly late. He's also the convener of the National Curriculum Review and Development Committee, which is formed by Pakistan Engineering Council. Previously it was HEC, now it is by Pakistan Engineering Council. So he already explained the ethics part in that. Yes, please.
Okay, my name is Hong Tianhua from China Pakistan Joint Research Center on Earth Sciences. Well, this is the third annual conference of CPEC Consortium of Universities. And I think the theme of today is infrastructure and connectivity. What universities can do for this, for the infrastructure and connectivity of CPEC? I think it should be providing scientific support to the construction of the infrastructure, and also to help to enhance or strengthen the interaction, people-to-people interaction in the fields of education, science, technology, and culture, and some other fields like social studies. And for the connectivity, there should be lots of activities being taken between China and Pakistan among the universities. So I would like to make a proposal to the organizers of this conference. That is, in the future, could we design the objective of this consortium for each session? And then we divide different universities in different groups. Like just based on the themes that we have designed for this conference. Like today, we have the theme of infrastructure and connectivity. And then if we could have the theme group among the universities, and then we design for the future. Each group should have different kinds of activities every year. And then by the end of the year, there should be an annual report. And we can plan for like 3 years or 5 years, and then we should set the objective for 3 years or 5 years, and then we make a plan, action plan for to achieve the objectives. In that way, I think the consortium can be consistent all the time. Otherwise, if we just get together and we talk to each other like today, and then after this, nothing would happen, then that would not be really good for the future organization of this consortium. So I do hope that the organizers of both China and Pakistan should think about this and focus on the objective and then the results or output of these activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Hong. I will just introduce to the audience, Professor Hong is the Executive Director of China-Pakistan Joint Research Center, which is established at the Qaid-e-Azam University. Yes, please, Dr. Wasim.
I do agree with Dr. Saab. I do agree with Dr. Hong. Probably there would be a lot of recommendations going on after these sessions. The main thing is to act on those. And you have rightly brought it out that there should be some objectives set and timelines set to achieve those. Only then it will be fruitful. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please.
Maybe I say something about the connective, just as Professor Hong has said. I think there are some problems for connective, especially in infrastructure field. I think maybe lies in two aspects. Firstly and basically, I think it's to know each other, to understand each other deeply, understand the history, understand the culture. For example, this time I came to Pakistan, and through CPEC, I know many universities from Pakistan. I know many friends from Pakistan, and know what they are doing, and they are what they are planning to do. So I think to know each other is very important, and CPEC has provided us a good chance to know each other. Secondly, I think we need to do some detailed work to keep our cooperation moving on forever. For example, about the science and the research work, just as General Asghar said yesterday, one of the mission or task of HEC is to improve the level of the university in Pakistan, or to develop some research university. I think we can cooperate in some research field. For example, now my team is studying a novel frame. I think a normal frame is from the building. So we are making a plan to do the sheeting table test. I know Dr. Ali also from the EEC also doing some similar work. So I think we can do some cooperation in this field. The aim of the test, we hope that the beam of the frame damaged first under the earthquake. the damage first. Then after the earthquake, we replace the beam with a new one. So after the earthquake, the structure become a new structure. I think we can doing some cooperation in the future in civil engineering, in earthquake engineering. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. As a conclusion of China's rapid development and progress is to promote economic development with infrastructure construction. Chinese people often say that wanna be rich, build roads. We should build roads before we want to be rich. To get rich as soon as possible, build a good internet. Investment in infrastructure requires loans. However, infrastructure investment forms excellent assets. According to the theory of investment growth, investing $1 in infrastructure will boost economic development of around $5. About infrastructure and connectivity, the interconnectivity along the Belt and the Road, it is not connectivity on the road, it is also the interconnectivity of capital, technology, and personnel. Today's meeting is a good form of interconnection. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lu.
I have a small suggestion. There is a connectivity on Earth by having roads, and there should also be connectivity, digital connectivity. And a proposal in this regard may be presented that we should also have digital connectivity between universities to universities by having optic fiber linkage and having, the main server, because over here we have a data storage problem, and you have the biggest data storage facilities in China. So maybe you could have the servers of those databases in China, and we could also, with your assistance, have a server over here in Pakistan as well, and then we could have greater connectivity. Generally, there's the isolation. Like I also have the same problem of isolation with my peers in China. That there is sometimes there's a delay, not because I don't want to, because if there's a telephone, when I was in States, we would pick up this telephone and talk with peers because of the digital fiber optic links, and all the universities were well connected with one another. So likewise, if all the universities are digitally well connected, so that would remove the isolation between the professor to professors. Everything begins with bottom-up approach. If professor to professor is well connected, I'm sure then there will be enhanced connectivity, enhanced interaction, and enhanced contribution towards CPEC program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, we agree with your comment. And in the beginning, when I opened up the session, I talked about the fiber optic, and there, at least to my knowledge, there is a project between China and Pakistan in which fiber optic line is being laid. But as far as this aspect is concerned, so we are noting down this. So we'll submit these suggestions to Dr. Safdar Shah Sahab is here. Sir, is there any such, there is a question, is there any plan of having fiber optic connectivity between the universities of China and Pakistan, specifically under the fiber optic project?
know that I don't think there is any project like this, but we are connected with our Chinese counterparts through WeChat. There has never been any difficulty. We talk to each other very frequently.
Right, sir. Thank you.
So may I add a little to it, sir? The first step would be, sir, to involve in the research. I mean, professor to professor contacts, we have our colleagues, we are in contact with them through emails, through internet, right? But remaining in touch basically would be through research and such activity which is touching the contemporary knowledge or enhancing the state of the art. So we should basically create research groups with our counterparts so that we are connected, what you are saying. Of course, if we are connected in research and then productivity of that research towards industry, we will be automatically connected, not only with the university, but with the industry of China as well, sir. But the point is 100% agreed. Basically, this is the requirement of the future, sir.
We generally use Gmail or Yahoo, and there's a problem of international connectivity with Chinese. They have their own software, and they are not very responsive as far as email is concerned because of, they have their own system, and whereas we have a different system here.
Yes, sure. What can be done in this area? We will suggest, sir. Definitely will suggest.
Any participant would like to comment or add something or a question? Otherwise, we can start wrapping up the session. We have about 15 minutes or so. Any panelist would like to add anything?
There was a discussion about data and different types of data that is important for the various attributes of this collaboration, and one aspect is the settlement mapping. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is passing through locations which have very specific characteristics, settlement characteristics that require to be mapped, and data needs to be acquired. Now, some of that data was part of the usual exercise of the 2017 population census. The minister was talking yesterday that much of that data has now to be made available to researchers where they can study and analyze the characteristics of that population and see that how after the completion of different stages of CPEC, the impact is caused on those settlements, and that can act as a kind of mapping the success of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor by identifying the specific impacts on these locations. This will be specifically important in those locations which are underdeveloped and which are going to experience a turnaround after the CPEC projects are implemented and they start benefiting from different milestones of development. So maybe we can put our act together to see that how some of those, I would say, channels of data can be more effectively used in order to undertake this exercise of settlement and beneficiary mapping.
Very well pointed out, sir. But a very strong tool for mapping is the space technology. By having the space photograph, the entire CPEC program routes could be mapped right from the beginning to the end. I have seen some of the images in SPARCO and also at Institute of Space Technology. And I hope that if this thing is integrated with the space technology, we would be effectively able to handle this issue. And Americans have done it. NASA, they use stereo images, three-dimensional images, and with 3 satellites are there. And they map everything right to the centimeter level to millimeter level. So this is where space technology could be effectively used for mapping. Thank you.
If there are no questions or comments, then I will wrap up the session. The session started, I opened up this session with putting up the challenges of population, funding constraint, remote areas which are not on the main, directly on the route, to consider them also, aging infrastructure, extreme forces of nature like floods and earthquakes and GLOF and landslide, rock slide. Various experts pointed out those. We talked about codes, resilience, all these things. And then we also talked about specifically highway, bridges, railways, ports, aviation. And then Dr. Wasim has pointed out about the professionalism, ethics, and then this was also, there was a comment from audience, group captain, sir, I forgot your name. Sarfaraz. Group captain Sarfaraz, he also stressed on that point, and I also made a point in between that safety, for example, as an example, is a culture, and every good quality works need a very disciplined approach. This we always, as a teacher, believe, and we want to see on that, and we need our Chinese friends. So once we have people-to-people contacts, our students are going and we are working on projects, hopefully that area will also get improved. Dr. Lu pointed out about various cooperation and research happenings which his university is doing. He mentioned about chronologically about various projects, especially focusing on the cultural aspect. He talked about University of Peshawar, they have a cooperation agreement, then on Hindu Kush belt. So these are actually highlighting the probabilities and opportunities for the universities to know and to connect. Then Dr. Noman talked about CPEC as an infrastructure of collaboration. So there is a need for development of research questions which need to be put and then solved. And I think one of our colleagues, the executive director, also said of this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, very rightly pointed out that these had to be a very strategically outlined activities and then tracked in time to see their progress and reviewing it and putting the future course of action accordingly. Then he also, Dr. Noman also talked about challenges, about one of the point out which was made in yesterday's session about various threats, external threats to CPEC to be addressed, because this was also another important point in other session. And I mentioned in the other session, and I also mentioned probably here also, that we are also working on blast resistant design. And by the way, various countries are working in that, and we have also took up a joint research with the military college Risalpur to undertake such threats which Dr. Noman has pointed out, and further university need to elaborate. We need to design student faculty mobility programs. In that regard, sport infrastructure, mitigating disasters. I also myself touched on that. Professor Jinji talked about his university. It started in 1956, various schools and programs. The highlighting of his university gives us the opportunity that we can send our graduate students or maybe at undergraduate level to their universities for acquiring the degrees in respective fields. They have a very good program in roads, railways, high-speed railways, tunnels, and we would like to benefit from those. He has also in the end pointed about the shake table testing. I offer my universities, I'm the director of Earthquake Center, I offer my collaboration with you, sir, so we can come up with joint projects as well, and we can send our students to you and vice versa. Dr. Zafar from audience talked about the slow pace of construction, and that is definitely a challenge for our master's program in construction management. They have to look into, in my opinion, from the holistic point of view, just not the technology, which is definitely one important aspect, but also from the procedural things, and there will be requirement of some legislation or changing in the rules of business at the in the government level as well. But at least somebody has to do research and put up the suggestions so somebody can then adopt on the side of the government. We talked about data. That is one of by Professor Su. He pointed out the importance of data. We talked about that. This will be one of our finding. It has been our finding previously as well. China-Pakistan Joint Research Center established at Kaiser University is and will be the main hub for coordinating these activities, and we look forward to have strong collaboration with them. There were some questions about 3D printing. We talked about that. That yes, this is being done, and people-to-people contact was stressed by Mr. Hong, and he gave who is the executive director of CPJRC, and he pointed out that the universities should have a predefined theme for this convention, and then they deliberate on those and give their findings. And I believe we can add the review process, Dr. Wasim sir, we add the review process of the last year, that what was discussed last year and now where we stand, and what are the timelines, how we are proceeding. So that I think should be also the outcome of this session. I might have missed, I will take the help of I might have missed something, but I will take the help of my panelists, and we will compile these points to be presented later on and submitted to HEC. With this, I thank you very much, and we'll meet again after the lunch break. Thank you very much. And I thank you, all the panelists, for giving their valuable input. Especially I'm grateful to our Chinese friends who have come all the way from China to attend this conference, and we are grateful to you. Thank you so much.